All right, let's talk about the Metacrisis, but probably not in the way you're used to hearing about it. See, this isn't going to be just another depressing list of all the world's problems. Instead, we're going to look at it as a single connected story, a story that kind of explains why so many things feel, well, off right now. And more importantly, what that feeling might be asking of us. Okay, let's dive in.
This quote, wow, it just nails it, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of the whole thing. Imagine we're all passengers on this giant, magnificent ship. Let's call it the Industrial Titanic. Everyone on deck is celebrating, popping champagne because we're going faster than ever before. But deep down in the engine room, the very systems that keep us alive, they're starting to sputter and fail.
So, who's steering this ship? Well, up on the bridge, we find what you could call the captain's denial. And it's this powerful collective idea that as a culture, we are all staring at the wrong dials. We're so obsessed with our speed that we're deaf to the alarms blaring all around us.
I mean, think about it. Our society has a very specific dashboard it loves to look at, right? We're constantly checking things like GDP, the stock market, quarterly profits. All these numbers tell us one story and one story only, a story about growth, about speed.
But this forces a really critical question, maybe the most important question of all. Are we actually measuring what we truly value? Do these numbers capture the things that make life worth living? You know, like our health, or how connected we feel to our neighbors, or if our kids will have a stable future? Or if we just confuse the map for the actual territory?
This slide just shows that disconnect perfectly. On the one hand, you have the shiny, gold-plated dial of the stock market that everyone's obsessed with. But if you were to slide that panel away, you'd see the real life support dials, and they're all flashing red. Biodiversity, plummeting. Social cohesion, cracking under the strain. Mental health, at a critical low. This is what systemic misalignment is all about. The things we're measuring have become totally disconnected from the things that actually keep us alive.
So this massive disconnect, this fundamental failure of this ship's internal logic, it's not just one little leak in the hull. It's the root cause of the whole problem. And it has a name. It's called the Metacrisis.
So what in the world is the Metacrisis? Well, it's that moment when all those separate blinking red lights on the dashboard start to converge into one giant screaming alarm. It's when our environmental problems, our social problems, and our economic problems stop being separate issues and start feeding into each other, creating this massive runaway feedback loop. And it's all fueled by this one really deep and really flawed idea that we humans are somehow separate from nature.
You could almost think of it as a perfect storm. You've got the incredible stress on our planet's living systems. You've got the growing fractures inside our own communities. You have an economic engine that is completely, and I mean completely, out of balance with physical reality. And then underneath all of that, there's this deeper feeling, this kind of spiritual ache, a profound sense of disconnection from everything.
Now, the physical engine driving this whole storm is something called ecological overshoot. The idea is actually pretty simple, but it's staggering. It means we are using up the Earth's resources and creating waste way faster than the planet can ever hope to regenerate and absorb it. It's like we've been living on a credit card with no limit for decades, and the bank is finally on the phone telling us we're cut off.
And a really scary part of the Metacrisis is how these problems create feedback loops that just make everything worse faster. Take global warming, for example. As the ice melts, it reveals the darker ocean underneath, which then absorbs more heat, which, you guessed it, melts more ice. Or how about this? Drier soil leads to dying forests, which release more carbon into the atmosphere, which warms the planet even more. It's a vicious cycle that just keeps pushing the whole system further and further out of balance.
And let's be clear, this isn't just some abstract scientific problem we're talking about. It has a deep and very real emotional impact on all of us. Some have even described it as a kind of collective divorce from the world that we thought we knew, the world we trusted.
There's actually a word for this feeling: solastalgia. It's that unique, gut-wrenching pain you feel when you watch a place you love change for the worse, right in front of your eyes. It's the grief you feel for a home that is disappearing, even while you're still standing in it. It's homesickness when you're already home.
Now, feeling that grief is real, and it's important, but this is not a story about despair. So how do we start to rewrite the story? How do we begin to heal that sense of divorce? Well, the answer might just lie in getting our hands a little dirty. Let's look at one of the most powerful and yet simple solutions we have: creating compost, the very engine of fertility. It's almost like a simple recipe, a 3-2-1 mantra. You take 3 parts browns, dry stuff like leaves for carbon. You mix it with 2 parts greens, like fresh grass clippings for nitrogen, and you add 1 part activator, like manure. When you do this, you're not just getting rid of waste. You're actively taking part in the planet's own cycle of regeneration. You're creating the rich, living soil that is the foundation for all healthy life.
I love this insight from the permaculture expert Jeff Lawton. It totally shifts your focus. What he's saying is, if you put your energy into creating a healthy system, in this case, amazing soil, then the result you want, like a beautiful garden, just becomes a natural byproduct. The goal isn't the garden. The goal is the health of the system that creates the garden.
And that one shift in focus, from trying to fix a million isolated problems to instead nurturing the health of the whole system, that's the key. When you start to see it that way, the Metacrisis stops feeling like just a death sentence. It starts to feel like something else entirely. It feels like a call to adventure, an invitation to step into a brand new story.
So here we are, standing at a crossroads. We can keep telling ourselves the old story, the one about infinite growth, endless consumption, and our separation from nature. Or we can make a receptive choice, and that means choosing to bring the Earth home, to shift our focus from the huge, global, and abstract stuff to protecting our local places, to supporting our neighbors, to strengthening our communities. These are the small, grounded acts that actually build a world worth living in.
Making that choice, it requires something called radical hope. And no, that's not just wishful thinking. It's a courageous decision to invest your time and your energy into a future that you might not even get to fully see. It's about planting trees whose shade you know you may never sit in, just because it's the right thing to do for the life that comes after us.
Because ultimately, that's the real question, isn't it? 100 years from now, people are going to look back at this exact moment in time, and they're going to see us as their ancestors. The choices we make, right here, right now, are writing the story that they will have to live in. So, what's our legacy going to be?
It all really comes down to this one last question. The challenges, they're real. The situation is absolutely serious. You could say the music of our time is pretty heavy, but our hope isn't found in pretending the music isn't playing. It's found in how we choose to respond to it. Will we choose to engage, to participate, to dance? The choice, really, is ours.
We have built our world on a high-stakes assumption that our industrial momentum is as unsinkable as the steel hulls we once set into the Atlantic. But the elephant in the room has grown too large to ignore, moving out of our private shadows and into the center of our lives. This is the Metacrisis, the tipping point where the stories of endless growth collide with the physical limits of our planet. The Lifeboat mini-course is your immediate, structured transition, a free 5-day journey delivered to your inbox to transform global anxiety into local resilience. Day 1 begins with an audit of the invisible, the energy and water systems you rely on every hour, yet rarely ever see. Day 2 forces a change in your geographical lens, challenging you to locate your true home within your watershed and local bioregion. You won't navigate this terrain alone. You will receive daily study guides and synthesized patterns designed to cut through the noise and reveal the architecture of change. Day 3 asks you to practice active hope in a world facing ecological overshoot. Day 4 introduces the demanding standard of revolutionary love. By tracing the water back to your neighbor's tap, you move beyond the narrow walls of self-help and into the expansive, interconnected practice of systems health. The climax arrives on Day 5 with the introduction of a specific framework for your future, the 9x21 harvest. Who is your mutual guiding spirit in this transition, and which 9 things will you choose to do? Stop waiting for the headlines to crush you. Sign up for the Lifeboat mini-course now. Access your Day 1 materials immediately and join the community hub where the next story of our world is already being written. You can remain tied to the illusion of a collapsing global credit card, or take this course to begin building real systems health today. The Earth is tired of the lie. It is time to dance with the truth.